Hola, ¿qué tal? Feliz junio. Today's the last day of school at my school, and I've just got a little bit extra time, so I figured I would make one more instructional video to finish the year. This video will be about the imperfect subjunctive. If you haven't learned any of the subjunctive yet, you can stop watching this video now. You need to go back and learn the subjunctive. If you're in my class and you have now learned the subjunctive, you've probably been practicing it for a while now. If you're watching this video, you're not necessarily learning a new concept, but rather just using it in a different context. So I'll give you some examples of what I mean, and then I'll tell you how it works when I give you some practice. So the imperfect subjunctive is basically taking the present tense subjunctive and sticking it in the past. So let me give you a few examples here. You've learned how to say things like, I want my brother to do this, or my mom wants me to do this, or my dad suggests that I do this. That's one form of the subjunctive, expressing wishes upon other people. So for example, I could say, Yo quiero que tú hagas la tarea. I want you to do the homework. Now what I want to do now, though, is take that I want you to do the homework and put it in the past and say, I wanted you to do the homework. So we're going to put the verb querer into the imperfect for saying I wanted, and then I'm going to put the hacer into what's called the imperfect subjunctive. And what that would look like is this. Yo quería que tú hicieras la tarea. I'll go over how to form that hicieras in just a second. Let me give you two more examples, okay? So present tense subjunctive. Mi madre sugiere que yo vaya al baño. So my mom suggests I go to the bathroom. And then I'm going to put that in the past, and I'll say, my mom suggested that I go to the bathroom. So we will say the verbs to suggest in this sentence, I could put it in the imperfect or the preterite. It just kind of depends on, is this something that she suggested to me a lot? Like habitual, do I want imperfect, or is this just something she suggested to me just this one time before we went on this one trip? So it's up to you, really. I'm going to put it in the imperfect for now. Mi madre sugería que yo fuera al baño. Would be my mom suggested that I go to the bathroom. And let me give you one more. Mi madre pide que yo lave los platos. So my mom asks that I wash the dishes. And I'm going to put this in the past and say my mom asked that I wash the dishes. Mi madre pidió que yo lavara los platos. Notice the pedir is in the preterite because she just asked me that one time. So I'm going to put it in the preterite. So I'm going to tell you now how to form the imperfect subjunctive. It's not hard necessarily, but it's just kind of tricky, I guess. And if you have trouble with the preterite, this is going to be harder for you. So hopefully you don't have trouble with it, but if you do, you're going to want to brush up on it quite a bit because you need to know it to do this as well. So what you want to do to form this imperfect subjunctive, first you have to think of what the verb is in the ellos form in the preterite. So for example, in my first imperfect subjunctive sentence I gave you, I wanted you to do the homework. The verb was hicieras. So how did I form that hicieras? Well, I took the ellos form of hacer in the preterite, hicieron. I dropped off the on, and then I add my new endings to it. So the new endings are a, as, amos, ais, an. They probably look kind of familiar to you, like kind of like the present tense almost. AR verbs, just a little bit different, but with the yo form, but very similar, right? So those endings go for all of the verbs in the imperfect subjunctive. The only hard part is remembering those irregular ones. So for example, let's do the verb. Well, I'll tell you the other one. The second example I gave you was mi madre sugería que yo fuera al baño. My mom suggested that I go to the bathroom. Now notice the fuera. That comes from the verb ir. Ir in the preterite. Ellos form is fueron. So I drop the on, add that new ending to it. The a, as, amos, ais, or on. So just so you have the whole thing there in front of you, the verb ir in the imperfect subjunctive would be fuera, fueras, fuera, fuéramos, fuerais, fueran. And then all the verbs have those same endings, the a, as, etc. And then the other example was mi padre pidió que yo lavara los platos. So lavar in the preterite ellos form is lavaron. I dropped the on and then I added my new ending to it. So write those down, those endings, so that you can do these 10 problems or sentences I'm going to give you. Let me give you one example of what I want, and then you can pause the video once I put them up on the screen, do them, and then see if your answers are correct. So my question is basically, what is it that the teachers wanted their students to do? So my example will be estudiar mucho. So what I'm going to say is the teachers wanted the students to study a lot. go ahead and start all the sentences the same and say los maestros querían que, los estudiantes. So the teachers wanted the students, and then you'll finish it with some verb in the imperfect subjunctive. So the first example was to study a lot. To study, estudiar. In the ellos form preterite is estudiaron. I'm going to drop the on and add an to it for ellos. So los maestros querían que los estudiantes estudiaran mucho. And I think I just had a change of heart here. What I'm going to do is I'll give you the 10 sentences, but I'm going to give you a different subject for each one. It could be yo, tú, él, nosotros, etc., just so you can practice all of them. So what is it that the teachers wanted these people to do? So for example, for the example, instead of if it was estudiar mucho, maybe it was for tú. Maybe los maestros querían que tú estudiaras mucho. So the 10 will come up on the screen. Let's go ahead and start all your sentences the same. Los maestros querían que, and then put your subject, whichever one I give you, and then conjugate your verb into the imperfect subjunctive. So here come your 10, and then see if you can write. Pause the video. Okay, so hopefully you finished now. If you haven't, go back, pause it, do it, and then come back for the answers. So number 1 would be, los maestros querían que yo sacara buenas notas. 2, los maestros querían que tú no salieras mucho. 3, los maestros querían que ella llegara temprano. 4, los maestros querían que nos pusiéramos la ropa en casa. 5, los maestros querían que vosotros limpiarais la clase. 6, los maestros querían que ella siempre tuviera la tarea. 7, los maestros querían que yo me portara bien todos los días. 8, los maestros querían que tú fueras un estudiante modelo. 9, los maestros querían que ella comiera en la cafetería. Y 10, los maestros querían que nosotros pensáramos en el futuro. So there's your 10 sentences. I threw a couple of irregular ones in there and reflexive just so that you could see how they work. So ponerse, poner itself is completely irregular. The preterite goes to the P-U-S of the verb. So pusieron was the ellos form. You can still put your nos in the front of it and then conjugate it. And then ser, of course, in the preterite is exactly the same as ir. So that goes to fuera, fueras, fuera, etc. And of course, for number 5, I put the vosotros form in there because while obviously it's not used in most Spanish-speaking countries, it is still part of the language. So your teachers should probably still teach it to you, in my opinion. So that's it. This is not, I'm not going to stand here and tell you this is something easy. It does take some thought. If you can remember how to form it, you can probably pass a test, but actually going out and using it can be difficult because there's a lot of thought and work that has to go into it. So it doesn't come too naturally to a non-Spanish speaker. Anyway, if you have questions, let me know, and I'll get back to you. Enjoy your summer.